in the town's downtown. And I'm saying town, I realize, because it's written here, but it should be noted that's town and village. Competition with online retailers and labor supply shortages have been an issue here. Recommend streetscape improvements, including better lighting, vegetation, burial of utility lines, and public art. And recommend changes to the building permitting process and zoning regulations to make opening or expanding a business easier and allow expanding business hours in the evening. That's some of what we heard. And then for upcoming activities, we have our, hey, look at that. We're like online. Look at us being all fancy.
Thank you to Mike Trainer and Christy.
Thank you guys.
And Susan.
Thank you. So for our, as mentioned, we will be at the Cornwall Fall Festival. So you should definitely, I'm assuming you're all going, and you should stop by our booth. That's on September 24th. And we're going to be, our primary goal is to encourage participation in workshop number 2, but we also will be soliciting preliminary feedback on this initial slate of projects. And then workshop number 2, October 12th. For that on the agenda, we will be doing an update on the process, update on the finalized vision and goals, feedback, and then feedback on the list of projects is what will be the primary goal of that meeting. In terms of outreach, I think we're going to do more outreach than we did last time. We got a good number of people, but you know, more is better. So we're going to be, we had heard from you guys that going through the school district would be a good way to go. So we're going to reach out to them, Cornwall local newspaper, the Interfaith Council, Public Library, the Chamber of Commerce. And then we have a couple other lists of stakeholders who we're going to reach out to. And then of course the like social media and what we have been doing as well. Do we have any questions so far? Comments, questions? No. Okay. Okay, downtown profile and assessment. So the downtown profile and assessment we've been working on, we have not finalized it yet, but it's nearly complete. And these were key takeaways. So we just kind of wanted to go over these. Takeaway 1 is that Cornwall enjoys a generally high quality of life with access to open space in the Hudson River, a walkable and active downtown, a thriving arts community and historic assets. Preservation and enhancement of these amenities, as well as new amenities, are needed to maintain this high quality of life and to entice more residents and visitors to the area. Our second takeaway is that a favorite trait about Cornwall's downtown is this walkability. Though there are concerns about pedestrian and cyclist safety, the towns and villages, downtowns, and waterfront are within close distance of each other. They feel separate and disconnected. And these are based on feedback that we had heard from you, as well as our own research, and also from what we heard at the public meeting. Takeaway 3, Cornwall has many elements that make it an attractive place for private investment, real estate development, and regional visitors. However, for the potential for Cornwall as a major economic development hub, as well as its ability to draw more visitors to the downtown, is hampered by its geography, long-time status as a bedroom community, and lack of regional awareness about all that Cornwall downtown has to offer. And then our final takeaway is that market trends indicate that Cornwall's commercial corridor could support a greater supply and variety of housing units, local businesses, hospitality services, and cultural offerings that serve residents and visitors alike. A few key vacancies present opportunities for new businesses. Current business owners would welcome a more streamlined building permitting process, access and beautification improvements, and increased marketing to regional visitors. Any questions on that? All right. Vision and goals. So for our vision and goals, the reason why we're bringing this up is we had gone over this last time, is that the flow for today's meeting, and I just realized I opened up the wrong thing on my laptop, so I don't see any of my notes, so I'm just winging it here. So the process for today's meeting is that we want to do a reminder of the vision and goals, and also what the state and the REDC goals are, because later when we present the projects, we're gonna have you guys take a look and tell us what you think about whether these projects align with the local and state and regional goals. So that's why we're reminding you of what these are. And Christy, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have you read the vision and the goals.
So this is the Cornwall New York Forward Vision Statement, which, as Jill said, we've seen in the past. And it says, the downtowns of the town of Cornwall and the village of Cornwall on Hudson will be vibrant and welcoming centers and community that seamlessly blends unique cultural attractions, historic sites, charming shops and dining options, family-friendly amenities, natural and scenic assets, and an abundance of recreation opportunities. The town and village would seek to build upon their active downtown commercial districts while preserving the natural and historic assets that highlight the beauty of the Hudson Valley and providing connections between the downtowns, the Hudson River, and regional attractions. So following the vision, now we have our goals, and these are the goals that we've prepared over the past couple of months, and these are the Cornwall New York Forward goals. So number 1, pedestrian and roadway connections. Foster a walkable, vibrant streetscape that maximizes safety and provides cohesive connections between the town and village downtowns, gateways, the waterfront, and regional attractions. Number 2, which is open space, parks, and recreation. Enhance existing parks and open space in downtown Cornwall to accommodate new features and amenities to encourage spending extended time in the downtown. Number 3, which is community attractions and cultural assets. Increase public art and cultural offerings throughout downtown Cornwall to boost the community's vast art and cultural community while enhancing existing community attractions to accommodate and entice tourists to the downtown. And then lastly, number 4, which is business development. Draw visitors from nearby attractions to a downtown Cornwall that is charming, cohesive, connected, and contains a mix of businesses that cater to visitors and residents alike. And later on when we start talking about the project, you're going to see the little icons that are affiliated with each of these goals. So try to take a mental picture. So we're going to talk about these and how each of the projects that we're going to go over connects with these goals.
And then next up, we have the REDC goals and then also the state goals, which is a lot of us reading. So we thought we'd just take a minute for you guys to just take a look and kind of skim over them just as a little refresher. Oh, they're also in your handouts, right? So if you open up your folders, they're in, Christy's holding up the.
The second handout that is stable, it has in there both your New York State goals as well as your REDC goals. And then this was also sent around to the LPC a couple of days ago with a pack of information as well. And I'm just changing slides over those that want to go at the New York State goals as well.
Jill, I do have one.
Yeah.
New York State goals are specific to Cornwall, or they are New York
There's-
State's goals for the project overall?
They are specific to DRI and New York Forward.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the REDC is more regional. So those are not, they have nothing to do with our program, but they are for the region as part of their overall plan. All right, so I think we're going to move on to project evaluation process. So this is the process of how this works. At LPC meeting 2, you might remember the LPC, you guys determined the project evaluation criteria to be used to refine the project list. At today's meeting, we're going to present the projects that we received through the open call for projects. And then we're going to ask for your assistance today, and we're going to go over project eligibility. We do have some ineligible projects, so we're going to take you through that. And then today you may choose to refine the initial project list, but we're going to go through and we're really going to evaluate today on how they're meeting these goals and also some of the criteria of how ready these projects are. So based on the information that we provided to you and that what you hear on the presentation. And then at meeting 4, projects will be presented by the project sponsors. So the projects that move forward after tonight, we will invite the sponsors in to present their projects it'll just be like a couple minutes, but then you'll have a chance to ask questions. And then at the end, after or during that meeting, you will use the project evaluation criteria worksheet. So that's this worksheet. We'll be using this to do a more full evaluation of the project. And before we even get there, though, in between 3 and 4, we're going to give you guys some homework. Over that later today, but after today's meeting, we're going to give you guys a little bit of homework. Not too bad, don't worry. And then at the fifth LPC, the last LPC meeting, the LPC, so you guys will determine the final slate of projects that will be included in the strategic investment plan. And then just as a reminder from that, the state uses that guide and says, these are all the project profiles that the LPC, and these are all the projects that the LPC has chosen. And then the state uses that document to choose which projects they want to fund. The project evaluation criteria, just a reminder, we look at state, local, and regional goals, project readiness. So that's again what we focus on today. We will also look at, apparently I missed something, what I missed. Yeah. Then we'll be looking at catalytic effect, co-benefits, and co-benefits, as we talked more in depth about this at our last meeting, is improves quality of life, potential to attract others, enhances community connectivity and cohesion. And then we'll also look at cost effectiveness and public support as well. So later today, in just a few minutes, once we get into the projects, we're going to talk about each project. We're going to present it. And in this today is a more high-level view of each of the projects. And then we're going to ask you guys to pull out your phones, or if anybody needs one, they can borrow mine. And then you guys are going to use I think it's Microsoft Forms. So we'll have a QR code that you guys can just scan. And then we're going to have you guys look at how the projects align with state, local, and regional goals. So whether it's low, like doesn't really align with them, or not at all, or very high, or in between. And for state, local, and regional goals, we'll be looking at alignment with state goals, local vision and goals, of course, and the REDC goals. And then we'll also be looking at project readiness, which today we've defined as the scope of work and project activities are clearly identified. Project has other funding available needed to proceed, and the sponsor can demonstrate site control. You guys are lucky in that the site control is not too much of an issue here. We've found that all of our project sponsors have site control, so we're in good shape. So I think when we get started, though, it should become obvious what we're doing there. And then just
Set a question. When we're reviewing the projects, we're not overall concerned with the budget amount meeting our 4.5 million. We actually want to exceed that anyways, right? So that's not a concern. We're just
not a
looking
concern
at-
today.
thank
Yeah.
you.
And we're only looking at submitted projects. We're not looking at government projects.
Submitted projects include government projects. And so municipal projects, so these municipalities had to go through the same process as nonprofits and private site owners. So they all had to go through the same process. So much to their dismay, they had to fill out applications, and we're now having meetings with them where we're grilling them on their projects. You can ask the mayor, he got grilled today. Oh yeah, you did too, sorry. So the process that we go through kind of behind the scenes is that we collect all the information, we get all these applications, and then of course we have a million questions. And so we've been setting up meetings, so me and Christy and Susan, where we meet with each of the project sponsors and we go through a whole list of questions. Some are just clarifications, some are like, well, this is an okay project, but maybe it could be better this way, to more align with what the state is looking for. So we try to give every project the best shot it can at going through the process. Yeah.
Public support, how is that going to be gauged?
That is gonna be gauged. We're still figuring that out. So the one thing that we don't wanna do is we don't wanna pit projects against each other. So we don't want the public saying, I like this project better than this one. So trying to do that is tricky, but we will be gauging, public support. I think at the, I'm forgetting now, but at the Fall Festival, we're gonna be having, actually, I think people are gonna be doing kind of an exercise similar to what you guys are doing today, where there's going to be a scale for each project and you can check off like your level of support for it.
Ranked choice voting.
Yeah, so something like that. And then at the public meeting itself, which I know is after the next LPC meeting. So the next LPC meeting, it'll be a little hard to gauge public support. Some of that will come at LPC meeting number 5. But at the next public workshop, there will be, we'll have boards and we'll present each of the projects. And people will have an opportunity to engage with boards, with us, ask a lot of questions and provide more feedback that way. And then we will kind of summarize all that information and present it to you, so that you'll be able to gauge public support as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. This slide is just our project requirements. Christy, I'm going to ask you if you can read this one.
So for project requirements, again, this is something that you've seen in the past, especially before we put out a call for projects. Eligible project types include those that are for new development and or the rehab of existing downtown buildings, public improvement projects, small project fund, and branding and marketing projects. And then ineligible activities are standalone planning activities, operations and maintenance, so for requesting funding specifically for that, pre-award costs, property acquisition, and training and other program expenses. So keep these in mind as we continue to go through the projects, because as Jill mentioned, there are a few projects that are ineligible.
Do we have any other questions before we move forward?
So what's a pre-award
Yeah.
cost?
Oh, so any, if you've been working on your building, like say you were working on your building right now, and then you
Got it.
you can't get paid for that work that was
Got it.
already done.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions before we move on? So let's see, this is the high level overview of our open call for projects. We did well. We got 13 project submissions. We have 1 from the town, 2 from the village, 3 that are combined, both the town and village together on, so 3 joint projects, 3 nonprofit projects, and 4 private projects. Of the 13 projects received, 3 projects are ineligible. And this next slide shows, it's this big long table, which we'll go over a little bit later, but just so you can see our total, including the 3 ineligible, is $7 million, which is great because the New York Forward program, as you know, awards $4.5 million. That the state asks for a slate of projects that somewhere in the range of $6 to $8 million, so that they have plenty to pick and choose from. And so we are right in the middle of it. And this doesn't change too much even when we take those projects off, the ones that are ineligible. Yeah.
Jill, when you say pick and choose, does the state decide to fully fund some projects and not others, or could they reduce the requests for a lot of projects? You know what I mean?
Typically what they aim to fully fund every project, but there might be, because no projects ever add up very neatly to 4.5 million. So that kind of last project may get less than what they asked for, but otherwise they try to fund everything in full.
Is there a prioritization matrix put in place so those people would know where they fall in line? They are the last people who are going to be the projects. It's just random, right?
That's a Susan question.
That is in the black box of things that I do not have access to.
Fair enough.
So nobody knows. This is the project map. This is, I know it seems like you probably can't see, but you can at least see that the projects are, they're well throughout the town and village. So we were happy to see that geographically they're not all clustered in one location, which is nice.
And just something to note too, if you can see the red boundary, that is the village municipal boundary, And then the dashed boundary, that's a New York forward boundary, so we should be looking for what's within the New York forward boundary. We just want to show the municipal bounds between the town and the village.
All right, so first we're gonna go over the 3 ineligible projects, and these are in no particular order. The first one was Cornwall on Hudson Special Events. So this is, the sponsor is Cornwall and Hudson Special Events. They're a nonprofit organization that hosts special events here in the village and in the town. They are looking to expand their offerings. They currently operate the New Year's Eve ball drop, the village tree lighting, and movies on the Hudson. And what they were looking to do is to purchase event equipment and funding of startup costs. This is, and they were asking for $77,500. Unfortunately, it is not eligible because they're not capital improvements. So there are some projects that are allowed that are not capital improvements, but this is not one of them. So Susan here likes to remind me that if it's something you can pick up and run to Canada with, it's not funded. I don't know where that analogy comes from, but it works. It works, so there we
Good
go.
luck carrying that ball out of town.
Yeah.
You won't get across the border with that ball.
So unfortunately, this one, we have to say it's ineligible for state funding.
We took a flyer on that one. We had a long debate about it. We took a flyer on that one because they are such a big part of what we're doing with the revitalization and all that stuff. But we did anticipate that you were gonna use the N word, the no word. You were gonna use that word, but we gave it a shot. We figured we'd see what could happen there, but we understand.
So you just made us the bad guys. I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it.
I was all
I'm
for
fine,
it. They
I'm
said
fine.
no.
Has nothing to do with the organization for any of these. It's just unfortunately, the nature. The next one is the Hudson Highlands Nature Museum. The museum is replacing their access road and parking lots at the Muser Road facility. The existing access road is severely degraded, causing significant operational problems to the museum. So the museum is requesting New York Forward funding of $85,000 to fill in a gap that they have in their funding to supplement a shortfall in their secured funding for the project. Unfortunately, this one is ineligible for 2 different reasons. This is really going towards maintenance of their facility. It's not for, if it was for part of a larger revitalization effort that would be drawing more people in, that might be different, but it's not. It's really just maintenance. But it's also far outside of the boundary. So it's not within the New York Forward boundary. If it was, we can make minor adjustments, and there actually is one that I have to discuss with you guys all later today. But this is far enough outside that we wouldn't be able to do it.
Jill, do you ever do this where you make discrete allowances where obviously we'd have to run down Angola Road to get to the Muser property? If we didn't include that, have you seen this where, the property that we have right now is all in one big line? Have you seen it where there are discrete properties that are separate? No, doesn't work.
No.
It is one connected district.
It's gotta be connected.
Yeah.
And within the downtown specifically.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
too far.
Got it.
Too far afield.
Too far with the red.
Yeah. So again, good project, just not right for this particular program. And then the third one is River Rising Realization, this was a private applicant. The sponsor's name is Greg Robbie, who does business as Anywhere, Anything. And it's an art project called River Rising Realization. And it would provide public art and education on climate change and sea level rise. The project involves 3 components. So the mural they would include a mural, which you can see there with the train, on the sponsor's building. The sponsor owns the building, but the building's on Shore Road. It would also include another element of signage throughout the town and village, and then it would have an online component. So this one we deem to be ineligible because the Shore Road part of it, the building on Shore Road is very far outside of the boundary. Yeah,
It's down here.
and we'll show it on the map coming up in a minute. So it's far outside of the boundary. The signage throughout the town and village, the sponsor does not have site control. It would be on town and village property and has not coordinated with the town and village. So I don't think it would be ready anyway. And then the online component is just not, it's not eligible. either. So unfortunately, this one is not a full project, but is not eligible for this particular project. And then this shows the map, so you can see on the upper right-hand corner, far outside of that, outside of the dark dotted line is the river realization one, and then all the way on the bottom left corner is the museum. So they're pretty far outside of the boundary. Do we have any questions about these? Okay.
All good projects, just didn't
Yeah.
meet muster with the requirements.
Exactly. And that happens with every, we expect it, that there's usually some. So now we will go on to the eligible projects. Should we have people pull out their phones now? And so if you could take out your phone, if you need to borrow one, let me know. And you see the QR code that's on the screen, and just the LPC members, yes. Sorry, members of the public, we can't have you guys, yeah, do the exercise. Sorry, at the public meeting, you'll be able to do something, I promise.
We will be talking through the results at the end of the project conversation, so you will be able to see the results. So as Joe was mentioning, LPC members, after each conversation about the project, just like what we just did, there's gonna be a couple minutes for you to fill out the form. And when you click next, that's gonna go to the next project. So just stay on that form for now. Once you're ready to move on to the next, then you click next, and that will submit those responses, and then we'll go through the motions that way.
So you'll give us the cue, we'll move to
We'll
next.
we'll talk through it as we go on.
Okay.
But this is just so everyone has a tee up ready to go, and then we should be good to go.
Every LPC member okay with that? We're able to pull it up? Everybody's nodding? Yes?
Yep.
Anth, you got it, bud? Good. Okay.
It should be easier than the first LPC meeting with the other polls that we did locally. But as you can see, we like activities. Keep everyone engaged. It's fun.
That's right.
So we have our 10 eligible projects. These are really in no particular order, but we did lump them. The municipal projects are first, and then the private and nonprofit afterwards, but the order means nothing. So I just want to make that clear. Our first one up is Riverlight Park improvements. The project is to improve Riverlight Park with new ADA compliant and stamped concrete walkways with a story walk around the pond. Construct new restrooms adjacent to the pool and renovate the Little League restrooms. A new playground equipment. So it would basically be a whole redo of the playground with, and it would feature ADA compliant elements. Construct a new skate park, improve drainage with bio retention and rain gardens, and renovate the existing ice house for use as a public pavilion. And then also includes renovating the interior and exterior of Sands Ring House. The sponsor is the town of Cornwall. And I'm assuming you all know where Riverlight Park is. The project cost, the total project cost is estimated at $2.2 million, but the town is requesting $1.27 million for the park improvements.
Can you
They
give
have-
us two numbers again, please?
Yeah, sure. The total project cost is $2.2 million, and they are requesting $1.27 million. Their other funding sources is a SAM grant, which they have secured, and then they have also applied for CFA funding. We have talked to, just today, we talked and confirmed that if on the off chance they do not get CFA funding, the town is still committed to going through with the project, and we'll find the funds elsewhere.
What's the ice house?
The ice house is, actually the supervisor could probably.
Whatever the barn structure, you know where they put the manger and where the ducks.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Had
Yeah, I
to-
didn't know it was called the Ice House.
Okay,
It is now.
What is that?
got it.
So the ice house part well, we went by there today and that building is really creepy looking. So I think it would be an amazing improvement today. So it would be to put some lighting in there, maybe try to clear out the geese a little bit.
Yeah.
Add some tables lighting, and just make it look attractive so that they can have.
Floor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
floor, it's nice, yeah.
No, it's a cool structure if we can, yeah, make it less creepy, as you say, yeah.
You know.
I missed one meeting, so maybe, but where are the new restrooms adjacent to pool? Where are those?
They would be kind of right in front of the pool, so there's the pool and then there's like a red.
Yeah, that little
That was
building.
right in front of that, right?
Yeah, so part of what we have to figure out is, we're currently, as you know, we're going through this whole idea of like, what are we gonna do with the pool?
That's
So-
what I-
So this, we're not gonna fully know exactly where they're gonna go probably until right before this project gets approved, closer to later in the fall. But, yeah, somewhere in that area.
Okay, I was just curious if they were gonna be more utilized for like tennis court, playground also.
Oh, yeah, no, it's gonna be, so you're gonna be able to access it, so I guess the goal would be, the bathrooms would be able to be tied into whatever new pool facility we do, and so so there would be public access outside of the pool, and then on the other side, if we built the pool, we get at it from that way too.
Okay.
And is this a project that's in design? Like how do we evaluate its readiness?
Well, the readiness, so it's interesting, is that I'd say a lot of municipalities their projects are not fully designed. And part of it is that in the cost will be included like hiring a landscape architect. So most of these projects, a lot of them are gonna be like kind of a little bit more pie in the sky. So, but I think its readiness is like, are they, of course, do they own the site? Do they have the ability to get this done? So capacity is certainly a big part of it. Are they asking for things like design assistance? If they're not asking for design, then, you know, that's kind of tricky. What
There's
else
also
am I
what,
missing?
it's also gotta be done within what, 2 years? of
Yeah,
years?
shovel ready within 2 years, which if you were to start, if they were awarded sometime in the, we don't know when that will happen, but say they were awarded in the summer. If they hired a landscape architect then to start the project, they can definitely be ready within 2 years from that date. That's kind of how you evaluate that.
And Jill, readiness also means, do we have the funds to put up front too?
Right.
We either have to have
Yes.
the money available or the ability to take out a loan to front it, because we're gonna get backfilled from New York forward.
I would also recommend, so after each of these project slides, it's going to be the slide again with the criteria. But if you open to the second page of your packet, and if we could quickly go through and circle the readiness evaluation criteria that for the purposes of this meeting you'll be considering when talking about these projects. And that's the first one, which is scope of work and project activities are clearly identified. And then the fourth one, project has other funding available needed to proceed. And then the last one, sponsor can demonstrate site control. So for the purposes of this meeting, focus on those three. The other three for under the readiness category are those that we're gonna focus on at LPC meeting 4.
Give us those three again, Christy.
So the first one, scope of work.
Yep.
And the fourth, project has other funding.
Yep,
And then the last one, sponsor can demonstrate site control.
perfect.
So something just to keep in mind, and you're also gonna hear Jill gonna touch on those points basically as we go through the slides. So it'll be helpful to have this in front of you too, so that you're always thinking about it as we're talking about the projects.
Thank you.
That's helpful, thank you.
That is.
Question. If there are aspects of these plans that, are we approving this based exactly on what's in the plan? Or is this committee, does this committee have the ability to make suggestions for potential changes to that plan that would make it
Yes,
more
I think
acceptable?
the LPC can make suggestions. Yes.
Absolutely. Any
Yes.
suggestions, comments, questions that you all have about any of the projects, please relay them and we will convey those back to the project sponsors.
Okay.
So that they have the opportunity to respond.
And our homework for you guys for over the next 2 weeks is going to be to look at that packet of information that we sent and to compile questions that you want us to ask the sponsors. So if you're looking at something and you're confused by something doesn't make sense, we want to know, because if you don't understand it, then you can't evaluate it. Also, if you have questions about their capacity or about their ability to secure funding or something like that, we want to know what your concerns are.
Yeah, those are
And
the-
then, because then at the next LPC meeting, we can have them address some of those concerns as well.
Yeah. And from the municipal side, Ted, what Josh and I did was leverage the engineers and our planner. And we're sharing a planner between the town and the village, but in putting these together, obviously, we talked to people. Dave Work's a perfect example and said, how can we do this? Give me an idea on this. Then gave it to our engineers and gave it to our planner and said, fit this together and make this work, you know? But when it comes to financing, yeah, that falls back on us. Do we have the budget to do it? And if we don't, do we have other means, whether it's, you know, CFA funding or something like that, which we're working on?
Jill?
Yeah.
At what point do these projects become more solidified in their proposal, like what they're proposing to do?
That's over the next month is really what we'll be doing a lot of that. So those project meetings that we're having with them right now is to kind of clear up some of these questions. But we expect some of these projects will evolve.
Okay.
For sure, some of these projects will evolve over the next month. And with that, likely the budgets will evolve. We find that as we go through the project, the budgets always tend to they just keep going up.
In fact, we have 4 pages of bullet pointed questions that they gave to the mayor and I today for our projects.
Uh-huh.
So we are,
And that's just from the 3 of us.
Yeah. So we're excited to get your guys' questions, so we can throw them on that too. And do we have any other questions about Riverlight Park or about the process? Okay.
Jill, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
can I
that's
jump
okay.
ahead or maybe backwards? I'm getting nervous holding my phone like this. Are we really doing the evaluation voting tonight, or is that
This
later?
is, yeah, we're gonna do it after we present each project.
Okay.
We're gonna do it and then we'll evaluate at the end, but we're not using this. You don't have to use this evaluation today. It's really just to gauge everybody's understanding of the project. Some of it is like, if we see that none of these projects look like they're ready, then it means that either they're not ready and we have a lot of work to do, or it means that we're not explaining it well and we still have a lot of work to do. So that it helps us gauge your understanding of the projects, but it also helps you guys understand, are these projects meeting the goals that you want them to meet? The state and the local and the regional goals.
And keep in mind, we were asked to put forth twice as much as the money that we're to receive from New York State. So high as we did, recognizing we're not going to get them all done.
Yeah, and I should also mention that you guys are lucky in a way, in that you didn't get 800 projects. So, you know, we could walk away at the end of this process with these same 10 projects, and that's totally fine. If you guys choose, if there's something that you feel like you don't want to include for whatever reason in the final slate, that's fine too, as long as it kind of fits within that $6 to $8 million range. So you guys are in a pretty good spot in terms of evaluating projects. There's no pressure to get rid of any projects, which is
So we
nice.
feel confident in, let's say, confident in all of them, or a relativeness of confidence.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Just real quick, not to hold
Yeah.
it up.
problem.
Moving forward, given your experience doing many of these so far, what's the likelihood of the funding for additional grants or other sources of money to get that $7 million number, let's say? Have other municipalities been successful with getting those extra monies, or those projects fall on the wayside?
Oh, you mean from other grants?
Yeah,
Uh,
like, is there a good
That's
success
good
rate?
Question. I don't know the answer to
I
that.
think there's a
but-
reasonably good success rate. I can just think of like last year, Austining and Havershire were both DRI. They both went for additional ESD capital funds for another $1 million for DRI projects, and both got awarded. So I mean, I think that one of the things that we like to do is like inclusion of these projects, even if they don't get funded by New York Forward, in a state plan, gives them some like vetting, some credibility, because it says they've already gone through a public process. This is something that the community wants. And so that does matter for other funding sources as well.
Okay.
Now, if all these projects don't get approved, does the community get another chance to put in a project?
Well, so $4.5 million will go to these projects for sure. And then the ones that don't get approved, again, as Susan said, they because they're in a state grant, like in a state report, they kind of have a little bit more higher credibility in a way. So it helps them when if they're applying for other grant sources. Yeah, but there is no guarantee though.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And with that, should we give this a shot?
So it's just 2 questions. When we hit
Just
next,
two
we're on the
questions.
next question.
Yep.
Next item.
Yep,
Yeah.
just 2 questions.
And again, taking into consideration the list of criteria under state and local goals and then project readiness, which is on the screen behind you, but then you also have in your packet.
And
That's all true. It's everywhere. It's
That's
everywhere.
right.
We like to be redundant.
I like it. That was good.
Oh, after you.
And then you click next once, and that's gonna bring you to the next project.
All right.
I believe if you click next
Don't
multiple
say okay,
times,
boomer.
it'll-
Don't say okay, boomer.
You got it, you got it.
I'm Gen X by 1 month. All right, got it. And you're a millennial by 1 year. Okay.
All right, are we good? Are we ready to move on to the next one?
I'm still voting.
Okay, that's fine.
Questions.
Just 2 questions
Oh,
already.
okay,
Yeah,
yes.
per project. Yep.
2 questions per project.
Mine's on 3 and 4 right now.
Yes, it's gonna keep
The
them down.
numbers are
So
gonna
for
go
the next
up, but
project, it's
it's
gonna be
the.
3 and 4, the next one will be 5 and 6.
Oh, gotcha,
That's just
okay.
MS4,
I
but
was like-
otherwise, just always 2
But
projects.
it should say, if you're done, it should say branding, marketing, and.
It does,
Yes.
but I was like, why does it say 3 now?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
That's just Microsoft Forms being a little.
Okay, okay. I just thought it would be 1, 2, 1, 2 every day.
Yeah.
If I was, no, I'm
That's
kidding.
a math test.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't give me that.
Our next project is branding, marketing, and wayfinding. This project is sponsored by both the town and the village together. It's a public project, and it is to create a 3-part strategy to establish a brand illustrating Cornwall's identity, attracting new residents and businesses, and increasing visitors to both downtown areas to support existing businesses. The 3 components would be to establish Cornwall's brand, develop a marketing strategy, and then create wayfinding, design, and signage. The picture we have is just kind of an example that they, that the town and the village created in their application. It's just an example of what like some more attractive signage would look like.
Was that the Fjord Trail?
We pulled it off the Fjord Trail. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
The total project cost is $325,000, and they're asking for a New York Forward funding request of $325,000, so the full amount. This project has a lot of partners involved with it, so I'll just kind of go through who some of the partners would be. They would partner with the Orange County Tourism and Office of Film, the Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, and the town's Economic Development Advisory Committee, the Cornwall Conservation Advisory Committee, Scenic Hudson, and HHLT, Town Historian and Cornwall Historical Society, and then also Orange County DPW, as well as New York State DOT, because some of the signage might end up on their, on some of their roadways.
I am an
Yeah.
employee of the Hudson Islands Land Trust, so I didn't realize that we were a partner on this.
Okay.
So I just wanted to disclose that,
Okay, thank you.
and I'll recuse myself. if
Is that a
necessary.
recusal? Okay,
Yeah, I would say just to be safe.
yep, okay.
My phone is down.
Step away from your phone, sir.
And I'm on EDAC, I'm on the Economic Development Committee.
But there's no
so-
financial interest. I mean, this is really just like.
For financial interest.
That's a
Like
good
This is
point.
like a discussion.
Yeah.
Right, with all those partners, we're all in.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Roll out.
Have all the
Either all in or all out.
aware of and signed off on this being.
That's right, it's a financial interest, that's right.
So they're more like consulting partners.
Yeah, this is like, for instance, when we're gonna talk about a tourism strategy, you're gonna involve the county office of tourism. So, right, and, you know, you're gonna, these are the, you know, these different players have, either properties or signage, or they're doing programming, or they're doing different things related to, they're involved in this, so we have.
But no financial stake.
No financial stake. No, this is just like, we're gonna have conversations, we're gonna, I mean, we're not gonna pay, you know, the Orange County Office of Tourism to.
So they're more stakeholders in like the planning process. Okay,
Absolutely.
you all are all in the clear then.
All right, good.
You can pick up your phone.
All right.
Good call,
Yes.
Josh.
So there's no other funding already available,
Correct, correct.
so we use that to evaluate.
So this $325,000, sorry, I absolutely can't see anything over there, is supposed to both pay the design firm and erect a
Create
fabricate these
signage.
signs and install these signs.
Yes.
So would it be appropriate for me to say that will get you one sign?
Well, I should say some these costs are preliminary and there's potential that they will go up over the course of the next month as we delve a little deeper into some of the costs. And
I mean, having, say like that sign right there, that's not gonna be that much. I mean, just from talking to like, you know, like the highway department and the DPWs, like we have a pretty good handle on what it costs to put up like wayfinding type signage. I'm not sure what kind of signage you're referring to, but I
You're also
mean,
paying a design cost, so,
Sure.
you know.
I mean, we have to be, so I think part of what, we're looking for, what I would say, we're not looking to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on this effort just because I don't think the public would support us doing that. I think this is kind of like an entry level, let's figure out like a branding kit for Cornwall and the village, and let's figure out, you know, an entry level way to do some marketing, but I mean, you can spend millions on this, and it's just, I mean, if we look at what Haverstraw did
And millions.
in Peekskill.
Yep.
We kind of looked at what Haverstraw and Peekskill did, and this was around the amount they put in their budget for the same thing.
So we just guesstimated on it. One of the big things, and you know, that was drummed into our head was the synergy between the village and the town. So we want them to be similar, but we also want to put our own little tweak to it, whether it's the village seal, the town seal, however we do that. But yeah, we guesstimated on that, and as Jill pointed out, some of these costs may go up. Hopefully we can drive some of them down, but that's what we thought would be reasonable.
so over the next month, we have, I'll get to you in just a second, I'm sorry. Is we also have some sub-consultants on this, who we are working with kind of behind the scenes. One is a company called Trophy Point that what they do is they do construction estimating. So this, they wouldn't be able to tell us, they could help predict the cost of the signage. And then we'll also be working with another consultant, whose name is Kevin Dworka, who can help us with fleshing out what some of the more realistic costs of the branding and marketing portion of it are. So I wouldn't worry too much today for today's exercise about the costs, because I would expect that over the next month, those will be refined.
Thank you.
Is there an idea on how many signs are projected in this? Or is there a guesstimate, or is it
I
just?
don't think so, not at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim, you had something?
I was just gonna add that I think this budget is too low, and I think this is one of the most, if not the most important project in the whole list. The whole point of this project is to give the town and the village a cohesive feel. And I wrote down, I think I've got about 10 different signs here that I wrote down thinking of that are all different, that are all in the, as you think about driving around town. So I just, yeah.
I
As we
think
move
that's a
forward,
lowball number on that is gonna be.
I echo the sentiment that this number is too low.
Well, how big is our biggest one?
So I think part of, the way we, first of all, the way we got to this is we looked at the number that was the final approved budget for Haverstraw and for Peekskill, which had the same thing. So they, you know, obviously, that's where they ended up after they went through this whole process. Now granted, that may not be, you know, accurate. And I, you know, we should certainly, in fact, you might be able to find out, we could find out where they ended up, because they're actually starting to go through the RFP process for some of the Peekskills, right? They're going,
Yeah.
they're going through it. Haverstraw's not there yet. It may be that, you know, depending on what the LPC thinks, we may decide that, you know, I've had some people come up to me and say, why are we gonna spend money on Cornwall's brand and marketing? But that could get really expensive, right? I mean, we could easily spend $500,000 on signage. So I think we have to, this may be something that we either have to reel in or we have to expand.
And I think to maybe the point as well is like, if this effort pays for the branding, then it pays for some signage and then more signage along. You have that basis of that fundamental, of that branding that can be implemented in additional signage later.
We don't, because see, part of, no, I mean, honestly, like what's gonna happen is we don't, and it's gonna be, see Dave work out there. And
Yeah,
so we're actually gonna have to painfully go through this entire project area and decide where we're gonna place every single sign I mean, there, yeah,
Dave?
Say the low estimate was 10 signs, high estimate is 20 signs, we figured $5,000 a sign plus design. So that's what we got for that. And that was based upon, yeah, as the mayor indicated, Josh had some estimates, but that was, to Josh's point, let's go through and pick each, if it's 40 signs, it's going up, but it's somewhere between 10 and 20 signs, depending on how far you want to sign it.
So
But there's 10 critical intersections. You look from one end of the village to one end of the town, and then you go from there, maybe another double that for other areas.
and maybe that's where we could get some help, deciding where we're gonna place this stuff. Also realizing when most of this project gets awarded, the 3 to 6 month, design and planning process will have to identify every single location as well as what the sign's gonna look like. So, that's gonna happen next year.
I just would add a
Yeah.
line that there's one thing to make the sign, you also have to install it, which means you need a footing and all sorts of practical things like that we forget to put in our budgets.
Yeah, I believe, and I have to look at the budget, but I know that our DPWs are, we will be actually doing the digging and putting in the posts and doing all that.
I think that
That'll be an
may be
in-kind cost.
the case with many of the projects,
Yeah.
like Jill said, with any project, it's like,
Right.
goes up by a certain amount, so
Yeah.
we don't wanna just pin this one as the only one that is a low ball. I think they all, if we knew them well, I know certain things and others, but I think if we knew them well, they probably all would go pretty high up, or at least
Well, you can
partially
cut
up.
costs by using the town's engineers.
That's right.
already.
And
That's a huge
you'll
cost.
see, we do have some of that, in the, where like the DPW work is like kind of an in-kind donation. So they might be putting labor in.
I would say though, I agree with Jim that this is a significant, we need this, it's very important. So, overall, I'm concerned about the cost being, the price, that's scheduled for the predictions. But, I think we shouldn't, shy away from it just because of that. I think it's something we should put in place and get it started at least. And to Susan's point, once you have that established, you can work from that. Now that cost has already been paid for and you have it, so you can move forward more easily at that point.
That's true. Any more questions or ready to go on to doing the project evaluation? So those are numbers 3 and 4, right?
5 and 6.
Exciting. All right.
Got it.
All right, are we good to go on to the next one?
Yep.
Okay. This next one is the Cornwall Connector Trail. This is another joint project between the town and the village. The project it runs the entire length of, almost the entire length of the New York Forward area. So this project is to improve sidewalks and crosswalks, add public art, uniform street furniture, public restroom, and street tree and pollinator plantings to facilitate a fully accessible, engaging, and safe pedestrian connection from St. Luke's Montefiore Hospital through both town and village downtowns. So the idea is that you're adding in plantings, street furniture, sidewalk improvements, other types of just unifying. Signage would be included in here, but that we've kind of taken the signage out and put it into the other project. But that, of course, there would be signage throughout. And then we've also talked about the lights in here as well. Is that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it would also include unified lights all throughout. So that would be more like holiday kind of lights. So it'd be the same in both the village and in the town's downtown areas. As well as maybe a hero's walk was also included in that. Yeah, hometown heroes. Yeah.
Are we having contractors bid on this? Or is it?
I don't know that we've gotten it for yet.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like certain aspects of it, I mean, like the lights, for instance, the town has an electrician that we use for a lot of things, so we, pretty much know what he would charge to, per light fixture on a telephone pole. We can look up a catalog and get quotes for the holiday star. then times it by how many telephone poles we have in town, so you kind of get, you know, certain costs. Some of this work will be done by the DPW. Some of it's gonna be, you know, the public art. We have, you know, for instance, like the sculpture on the bridge, we know that the value of that's been assessed by the artist is $22,000. So we have an idea that, you know, roughly for that size sculpture that's on the bridge, $22,000, roughly, if we were to go back to that same, but, you know, but obviously the cost of public art can vary pretty widely depending on how big and what you do. So we, you know, came up with that number by just, you know, we had to give a number, and there wasn't really time to go and find 5 or 6 different artists and get, so we basically said, let's say $30,000 for 5 pieces of public art that may be wildly off. Maybe Storm King Art Center has some ideas on how far off we are. I mean, obviously we can't, you know, the art you have at Storm King Art Center is on a much larger scale than what we would be anticipating in our downtown areas, but we had to, you know, put a number on it. That's, you know, what we came up with, 150,000.
Is this including insurance? Are they gonna be insured pieces or?
So again, it varies. So for instance, like with the sculpture on the bridge, that's insured, and there's a certain amount of, you know, additional we have to pay each year to, you know, insure the $22,000. But yeah, I mean, either, so if the town owns it, it's different than if we're insuring someone's art that, you know, is on loan to us. So we're just,
So the goal is to buy it.
yeah, I mean, you know, but look, if that's not possible, if some of the money has to go to establishing like bases for a rotating selection of art, then maybe that's where some of that money goes. But I don't know that we're kind of working our way through.
I think another piece of this too, we've kind of interchangeably called it the connector trail and also the pollinator corridor. And I think what we're looking to do, you know, obviously starting down at Donahue Memorial Park and Donahue Farm property, and as those two sections of road come together and then Hudson Street runs into Main Street, putting stuff in there that's going to be good for the environment. So putting pollinators in, how do we do that? And Dave Work and his crew have done a great job of looking into this. Some of these would be discrete boxes, so they'd actually be boxed out, you know, kind of like what we have in the front there. I don't know if that's the style, if that's going to be the height of it. And then other spots, especially down toward Donahue Memorial Park and maybe even toward the farm property, leaving some unmowed areas where we can put, you know, the right species of plants in there that are, you know, that are going to be pretty in the spring and also going to help out in the pollinator piece of it. So we're using those terms interchangeably, but connector trail, you know, Josh talked about some of the things that's going to connect the village and the town. We're really looking forward to doing this for the holidays. We're putting lights up for that, and also the Hometown Heroes, Memorial Day or Veterans Day, you know, having people sponsor individual, you know, family members that, you know, either, you know, were killed in battle or served or however we want to do that. And then really focusing on putting these areas together where we can put pollinators in and make it work. So that's the goal. I get that?
Yeah, and obviously we got street furniture and
Bathrooms.
street trees on Main Street.
Yep.
That's another thing. And then some of the, you know, part of the marketing, branding, wayfinding, some of that stuff will translate over to this and actually be purchased under this, like the benches and the garbage cans and but, you know, we didn't really want to combine wayfinding and design and marketing in this one, so that's like a separate, but it will translate into this.
And we're trying to get smarter. I'm not criticizing folks 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that made these decisions, but not planting trees underneath power lines. And look, we'd all agree we'd like to get these power lines buried, but quite a bit of it's cost prohibitive. And as we work through that in the future, but not, you know, planting trees so that, you know, Central Hudson can come and whack them and chop them off the top.
Sorry.
Yep, go.
Sorry,
We got
just
time.
realized at the time that we're a little bit behind in time. I didn't realize
get to
how
all
far
the
behind,
projects.
yeah.
And the mayor and supervisor will have a chance at the next meeting to also
Yeah.
Yes,
present.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly. So we might, just given the time and how much more we have to cover with this meeting, might go a little further. So I hope that's okay. Sorry about that. The project cost for this right now is estimated at $855,000. The funding request for New York Forward is $755,000. The town and village would be providing in-kind DPW labor, estimated at $100,000. So that's where that $100,000 comes from. And I do want to just mention that, like, part of the project is to, I feel like the description doesn't quite do it justice, but is to enhance placemaking, provide pedestrian improvements, and visually connect the entire corridor. All right, do we have any other questions before we go on to the evaluation? Okay, so you guys can evaluate the project now. All right, we good? Okay. The next project is a small project fund. This is the another joint town and village project. And it would be to provide the business community with additional resources to further enhance the economic vitality of downtown Cornwall. The fund would be available to owners of existing small businesses, owners starting new businesses, and owners of buildings that include commercial space. Projects could include facade improvements, interior improvements that allow for business expansion, and other capital improvement projects. And this is, the total project cost is $300,000 and the funding request is $300,000.
So this re-granting is allowed?
Yes, yes. This is one of those unusual projects that is not a capital improvement per se, but in and of itself, but is allowed by the state.
And who has oversight of these small grants?
Village in the town.
The village and the town. So part of this funding though is to be able to procure a consultant that can help administer this fund, because it is complex. You have environmental reviews, architectural reviews, things of that nature, since it is still, money comes with some strings for even the smaller projects. So that would be part of this as well.
So this would be giving essentially, like, then if a business downtown wanted to improve its facade or get new signage or something like that, then they could apply for a grant from the town and village through this fund. Any other questions? And this is one I can say at the next LPC meeting, or as you're evaluating this, if you have suggestions on like what you would definitely think you would want to see included in this grant program, I think those suggestions are always welcomed by the municipalities. All right, are we good with the evaluation?
Yes.
Huh?
You guys are good with the evaluation? Okay.
Can't see your breath yet. It's not that cold.
Sweater.
Oh, would you stop it? I like to hang meat in here.
Just, so I'm assuming, since you said this is approved by the state, to be something that they would fund and it does align with their goals?
Yes.
Okay. all right.
Yes. Yep.
We've seen this happen in other communities.
Okay, this is a way, the small project fund is a way to kind of still give businesses and property owners in that, like, some support and some help that maybe doesn't rise to the level of a standalone in New York Forward project. So
But ultimately helps the benefit Main Street.
exactly, and kind of the collective improvements does have that transformative effect.
Right, okay.
And a lot of communities take advantage of this and apply for New York Forward funding for it. All right, the next project up is Dock Hill Road Trail. The sponsor is the Village of Cornwall and Hudson. And this would be to construct a 2,500 linear foot trail to allow for safe pedestrian connection between Donahue Farm and Donahue Memorial Park. This includes 900 linear feet of existing trail to be repaired and sidewalk improvements to Bayview Avenue and Dock Hill Road. This trail would connect with the Cornwall Connector Trail. Other sources of funding, the village has secured recreational trails program, and is it EPA funding?
Kelly?
EPF funding and
EPF.
recreational trails. It's not secured, but it's anticipated or
Okay.
hoped for.
So the total project cost is approximately $1 million, and the funding, New York Forward funding request is $479,250.
Dave, anything to add to that?
And I think in terms of being shovel ready, you can see the village engineer's done a lot of design work on this. We feel like this is a project to move forward pretty rapidly.
Any questions? No? Okay. So we'll do the project evaluation. A minute for that. I mentioned the time and this. Everyone wants to
Made
be
everybody
home.
nervous.
I know, I'm sorry.
She's going to midnight. I got nervous. Yeah, that project looks good. That one looks good too. That one looks good too. Yep. Tell the mayor to shut up. We'll get out of here soon.
Jill, can I ask you
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah.
Forgive me. Is there a reason why very high is not a choice in project readiness? Is that intentional?
There's different
Oh, no.
scales.
Okay.
I think that was an oversight.
Oh, thought mine said-
I swear that was there yesterday.
Oh.
Is there a high?
Yeah.
Yes.
The other one is like.
Oh, okay, I think that was just an accident, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I see
Okay,
that.
so thank you for pointing that out, because now we know that it could be either high or very high for project readiness. Thank you.
Good eye.
Yeah. Oops. All right, next project up is Donahue Farm. And I am gonna ask that we are gonna present this project more in full at the next one. So Dave, I'm gonna ask that you, I'm sorry.
We keep dragging him here.
I know, and you can answer a couple questions, but at the next meeting is when you'll be unleashed, I promise. So Donahue Farm, the sponsor is the village. And they are partnering with the Donahue Farm Committee. Donahue Committee, sorry. The project is to renovate and preserve the exterior of the Donahue Farm barn and ice house, remove the garage and kennel building, construct.
Had to get a haircut. All right, fellas, good luck tonight. Don't forget the jersey.
Are you able to mute that? Do you know? Okay, thank you.
Telephone should pick up in the party lines.
Keep going, you're on a roll.
Okay, construct new restrooms and provide a visitor kiosk to facilitate public use of the site for community benefit while honoring the property's history and local importance. Public events, so this would be to improve the site so they can host, the village can host more public events than they already do. Those events include movies, concerts, farmers markets, and farm-to-table dinners. And I will say, this project, as we started fleshing out some of it today with the village, it is part of a larger effort. So we can almost in a way consider this to be phase one of a multi-phased project. So the idea is to eventually get these, like the barn building and the ice house, so that they are available for public use. And possibly for commercial use, such as hosting like weddings or things like that. This phase of it, though, would just be to shore up the buildings to make sure that they don't deteriorate until it's too late and you can't use them. So this is kind of the first of more phases. The total project cost for this phase, not for the whole thing, is $723,500. And the New York Forward funding request is $667,500. The gap in funding there is a private donor has already agreed to fund the ice house roof replacement. So there's a private donor as another funding source for this.
Could you say a little bit more? So the end result of doing this project will not be public events.
It will be both. So it would be, so I think even if the barn, when phase two, when the whole project is completed, there might be times if there's a wedding, obviously there would not be a public access.
No, I was sort of saying a different thing.
Okay.
If this funding, I didn't say it that well, sorry.
That's okay.
If this funding is for phase one.
Yes.
What you have there in your last sentence happens at the end of phase two, ?
No, that would actually happen at the end of phase one. So phase one would be because there are already events that are held there now. So the idea would be to improve it so you can have more events in the short term. But those would be outdoor public events. In the long term, it would be to renovate the buildings so that you can have those buildings be used for educational purposes, and ecological purposes. And then that would be more like the ice house, would be more like public benefit use. And then the barn would be like, most likely more like event space.
Perfectly said.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So that total project cost will go up because that is just the total project cost of just this phase. Thanks.
We voting now?
Yeah,
Okay.
unless are there any other questions? We're good? All right, we'll go into the next project. Now we're getting into the nonprofit and private projects. This first one is the Cornwall Imaginarium, which is the sponsor name is the Cornwall Imaginarium LLC. This is a private project. The sponsor owns the Lemon Building, which is located on Main Street, 257 Main Street. And the idea is to transform the building into a dynamic arts and artisan incubator that supports veteran-owned businesses. New York Forward funding would support build-out of phase 1 of the project, which includes an art gallery and bar. Future phases would include second floor performance space, rooftop restaurant, and kitchen space. The total project cost that includes both phases is 1.9 million. The sponsor is asking for New York Forward funding request of $675,000, and that would fund phase 1. So the idea, the sponsor, I think I said this already, owns the site. Phase 1 would be paid through New York Forward, and then phases 2 and 3. For phases 2 and 3, the applicant has secured through self-funding about $337,000, and then the remainder is undetermined but would likely be funded with construction loans. Phase 1 of the project. This you can kind of see in the picture. So this building is interesting, and the inside is a former bank. And so the idea is to kind of keep some of that, like the teller's windows, and you can't really see it, but there's a vault in there. So I think the idea is that that kind of weird space in there would be the bar, and that would kind of preserve what's there now. And then on the outside of that was they would have somewhere they would have the art gallery, and possibly other uses.
I had the opportunity to tour this. If you reach out to Chris, I'm sure he would let you tour it. This is exactly what our Main Street needs. This space, he is so creative and imaginative, to use the word there. And I'll keep it really short, but this doesn't seem like a big cost to me. I know it'll probably go up because if you go see this space, it's just insanely amazing. So I really think we need this. If there was a very, very high, I would put that. He's just a creative person who has a really cool vision, and I think it would be an amazing addition to our Main Street.
What is it currently?
It's 11, it's the, did you know the yellow building?
Yeah, the brick one, the Main Street.
Across from
Yeah, it was
Prima.
a bank, and then it was
So it's
law.
vacant? Law.
Yeah, law office.
Office, yeah.
But seriously, it's so cool. Like, it is just cool. There is a vault, and the door to the original
No, I
vault
love
is in
that
there. Pardon?
I love that building.
It's so beautiful. Everybody loves Sloan, but it's like, and to see it, he just has some incredible ideas, and
They also own the property that's the parking lot, but also where the old playground used to
Yeah.
be. So that's theirs too, but now that's facing that new awesome mural.
I have practical questions. So this being state funds being put into a private enterprise, does the private enterprise have to like covenant in some ways that we will operate this for 20 years? You know, like how do we know that the investment pays off?
The state, the contracting agencies do have clawback provisions in the contract that they would sign. And I can't speak to the exact period. I want to say it's at least 5 years, but Yep, there is provision in there.
And then,
And this is a not-for-profit, correct?
This is a
No,
private
this is
business.
private.
This is private.
Yep.
Okay, separate and standalone from
Okay,
vet rep.
yeah.
and-
Got
and-
it,
Still
got
on the
it.
tax roll.
so,
We're getting there, Jerry.
second question is, so, this is funding phase one, there's an assumption phase two, and did you say there were three phases? Phase
Right.
three would go ahead. And so like, does a business plan get evaluated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, so we have already, I think they already submitted a business plan. I do want to caveat this, that the information that you have in your packets is slightly different because they updated their cost estimate. So some of the information in that, just for this project, is a little bit different in your, in the packets you sent, because we since talked to them like 2 days ago.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, and all the private and nonprofit organizations do send us like a type of business plan so that we understand what their capacity is, and that they have the ability to fund this outright.
Just a technical question. A lot of these projects seem to have a couple phases to them.
Mhm.
Later on, are we going to have an estimate on projections for phases 2 versus 3 to kind of get a realistic gauge of whether or not, if the funding is available from New York Forward to do phase 1, what is the cost and what's their capabilities of acquiring that funding for phases 2 and 3?
Yeah, well, we do have for this one, yes. So the total project cost, the 1.9 million, is for all 3 phases for this project. And in this one, we do have a budget breakdown, and so we already know that they've already self-secured the 337,000 to go towards phases 2 and 3. And then the rest, they indicated that they would pursue construction loans for. And so I think each of the projects we can provide that information.
This goes through what, Empire State Development would handle this?
Yes.
And so they have their own process and it's what, reimbursement?
Yes.
It's a
Grant.
reimbursement, yes.
So obviously, if they don't do the work, then none of the money is getting expended, and then does that mean that that can come back? So what happens, I guess, in that event? That they never get, like failure to launch and like the money comes back, can that be reallocated? Like what happens?
Yep, so typically what happens is, say this were awarded at $675,000, the project did not move forward, never signed a contract with the ESD, then the next, so maybe that project that didn't get fully funded that Jill referenced earlier, the funds would go to that. And if there's even additional funds after that, then we would go back to that full list that you all submitted and go to kind of the next project. So that's why we do the larger list of 6 to 8 million beyond that 4.5, so we have kind of that cushion in case something were
So
to
I
happen.
think it's important to say that these are reimbursement grants, so like, they're not just getting a check. So if they, again, fail to launch, like, the money's not being wasted, so if they're not meeting the metrics that the agency sets up, then they're not getting the money.
We are very clear with the applicants when we meet with them, and also ahead of time, because we had the open office hours that people called in and asked, and we did speak to several of the private applicants before they applied. And that's always our number one thing, is this is a reimbursement, and we get the most questions about that process.
Could that be added to the town's re-granting for the community?
Oh, the small projects?
Yes, that's also
Could that add
reimbursement.
to this, so it gives the community more time to apply for the projects?
Oh,
Not typically, but
But if we want to give the community more time to apply for these projects, put it into the town, would give them more time to.
So I guess, so maybe, just put this out there, so let's say we get the 300,000, and then year 1, we've spent that down, but then this doesn't move forward, can we then re-up another 300,000?
no, we would go to the next project.
Okay, okay, that was.
The only time that I've seen an amount go above the requested amount for a small project fund is like, I think Haverstraw, for example, last year, there was $77,000. And so that wasn't enough to go to the next project, so it was added to the small project fund. So in those kind of instances, but if a project were to fall off the list, it would go to the next project.
any other questions? All right, so your evaluation, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, the next one is Main Street Hotel. The sponsor names is Two Girls, One Boy Holdings LLC. It's a private project. The location is 317 and 325 Main Street. The sponsor owns the site. The project is to construct a 4-story, 52-room upscale boutique hotel with full-service restaurant and bar on Main Street. Also includes constructing a parking lot at the rear of the property that would contain parking spaces for guests and additional parking spaces that would be leased to the town for use as public parking. Also included are improvements to the nearby creek to prevent flooding. The total project cost is approximately $7.8 million. They are requesting New York's forward funding of $1 million. The sponsor has secured approximately $900,000 for the project and is anticipating an almost $5 million loan and private financing, and has requested an additional $1.2 million in CFA grant funding.
This is a ground-up building or a renovation?
Ground up. So this is, there is a building there currently. It's a former car dealership. if I'm
Furniture
correct.
building.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's okay, we'll let you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so they would raise that building and then construct this.
Yeah, and also just the one thing in here, so the town earlier this year applied for a Restore New York grant for this. We did not get it, but if there's a round 3 for Restore New York, the town intends to apply for another $2 million to put towards this project. So that would be another, we're just waiting for, and I know it was like funded in the budget this year, we're just waiting for them to put it in.
Where is this project in the planning board process?
They just got their 3 variances from the zoning board of appeals, so they're now back to the planning board where they're gonna deal with just overall planning board issues. Hoping to get a public hearing and then approval, by the December meeting.
Is it, okay, so they're,
Yeah,
so they've been in front of the planning board.
oh yeah.
Planning board said go to the zoning board,
They just got, actually at the August
they have
meeting,
one.
at the August meeting, they just got their variances.
so they have one more meeting in front of the planning board, for the planning board to make a final determination. Got it.
Well, they gotta have their public hearing, so they have to.
Right.
So public hearing and then hopefully a vote after that.
Okay.
So,
Jim?
Josh, just one quick, were any of the variances denied?
no,
They weren't, okay, good.
These funds are strictly for construction, or they are also for design?
They are for, I believe at this point, they're just for
construction,
construction.
I believe.
Yeah, I think they've already gone through the design process.
And can you repeat what you said about how you verify cost reasonableness of this?
They provide budget breakdowns, and we look at the source of them. If the source seems to be accurate, if they seem to be on point, we leave them alone. If they are, if it is clear that they are, it is, we're not sure, then we send them to our, to Trophy Point, our sub-consultant, and they verify them.
I'm maybe behind on this, but any of, it just looks tall. Do we have a variance for height?
Yeah, there's a bulk requirement, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
the bulk, so the bulk requirement, it meets the bulk requirement in the GC district. You can go up to, I think it's 65 feet.
Okay,
As
okay.
long as they stay at 60 feet, they can.
So we're in it, okay.
They're good.
Yeah, there's requirements, but they're okay with them. Yeah.
It sounds like the town is very supportive of this project.
Yes, well, the supervisor is very supportive of it.
Who's gonna line up someone in the 7.8 million on that?
I think their costs are from, because they've gone through the design process already, so their costs, I don't think we would be sending this to be verified through Trophy Point.
It does seem low to me, particularly
I
when
think it should be double that.
yeah, I with them. In terms, particularly when you add in, you mentioned, the parking and the creek and the, the other infrastructure costs, which really can creep in
How long
there.
ago was that estimate done? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go right ahead.
I don't know, but we can ask.
And like, based on 3 years ago, prices have increased by 30% at least. If that was done, if that was done 3 years ago, maybe, but now you're looking at 15 million easily.
Jill, hypothetically, if the LPC was to, let's suspend disbelief and say, approve everything, and say, we like all these things, do we as the LPC have the ability to go in and adjust numbers? So we have to meet that 4.5, correct? We're in at the $7 to $8 million worth. If we're like, we like all these projects, do we have the ability to adjust numbers?
I think so.
Or do we
yes.
have to excise projects and say, nope, what you're asking for, we're,
No, you can.
You have the ability to adjust numbers. One thing I would just consider is like, be mindful of like what's still feasible for a project, once you adjust those numbers, and like,
Got
does
it.
it still have that same impact?
it probably works more in the municipal end, because we'd find other funding sources, probably different for the private sector, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I guess what I would say with this is that, so this is gonna be, because they're, multiple applications to the CFA and they've gotten so far in the process, they've spent a lot of time on these numbers, working with Empire State Development. And the guy that is the owner of this is also a commercial flooring company that does projects in like hospitals and municipal sites. So I think he's capable of probably getting a pretty good number. Now granted, we should certainly verify it, but Empire State Development's gonna do that. And he's, I think he's applied now, 3 times for this CFA. He applied for the, Restore New York, and so part of this is, he's gonna, so I mean, maybe we're off.
Are you allowed to tell us who the one?
Yeah, I mean, he's come to the meetings.
Yeah, he's been.
It's on
yeah,
the-
public,
yeah.
yeah,
It's on the Keith Perez is his name.
And I'll note that, these are questions that we will go back and ask, but also
Certainly.
like at the presentations in XLPC, you all will have the chance to ask, the project sponsor directly too.
And also during your homework exercise.
Yes.
Don't forget about that.
Yes.
Going back to school.
Everyone is.
Yes.
Yes.
School just started, so that's good.
Right.
All right, so we'll do our evaluation on this one.
Yep.
All right, are we good to move on to the next? Storm King Theater. The applicant for this is Storm King Associates. It is a private company, and they own the building. The project is to improve the historic Storm King Theater building to convert interior spaces that are currently used for storage into a first floor black box theater and a second floor lounge and dinner theater that would be integrated into the existing restaurant. There's an existing restaurant, I guess, on the second floor. These improvements allow diverse entertainment programming while staying true to the building's historical use. So none of the uses that are currently in that building would be displaced. Instead, they would just be adding to interior space that is not being used. They would then convert into the black box theater on the first floor and the second floor lounge and dinner theater. Their funding model of it is that the second floor lounge and dinner theater would be operated as a traditional business. And so, and the revenue that they use for that, they would kind of put into the first floor so that the black box theater would be more of a community use. As I said, the sponsor owns the building. The total project cost is $841,000, and the New York Forward funding request is $774,000. The sponsor is making a contribution of $68,000 towards the project.
And do we know about them having done any kind of market analysis?
As far as,
They had submitted something, but it might have been more generic.
I think they submitted something, but it was more generic.
Sure, yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, that's all I know. I agree with Jim.
Yeah, but we can certainly ask them.
Do you mean as far as, like, what is your?
This
This location, is there, an audience for a
Yes.
theater?
Yeah, it's the center of the village for us. I mean, everything happens there.
And how many seats in the black box?
I don't know.
Jim?
I think they said on the, oh, was
Okay.
it? Okay, thank
I
you.
read this one in depth.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
It's a great project.
And there are
Yeah.
2 restaurants on either side, there's not on the second floor, but on either side that are.
Yeah, it's an apartment right now on the second floor.
Filled.
So the black box is gonna be used for public use?
Yeah, so I think it's a little, I'm a little unclear, but but their intention that it would be flexible space that can be used for a variety of different types of like theater and entertainment uses, and it would be, they are envisioning it as a community use. So whether that means that they're not charging as much, or I don't know that things would be free, but
They would operate as a nonprofit, according to the notes. But I was gonna ask too, does the nonprofit entity exist already or
not that we know of.
Yeah, I don't think so. Jimmy, no.
So just one thing to add to this, so the old West Shore train station down in Newburgh, Ray restored that building. You may recall the railroad playhouse that used to be there before Hudson Taco. And so actually my friend Seth, who was the executive director of the railroad playhouse, he worked with Ray. So Ray's actually been through this in the past. So he has experience, building and opening a black box theater. I believe that he's been talking to Seth about this, to help, because this consultant that he has experience. In fact, he just opened up a theater at Vanderbilt University, and now he's going to Vermont to open up another one. So he does have some, an experienced consultant helping him do this, and he could probably come up with some of these other things you're looking for. But this isn't his first time ever building a theater, just so everyone knows that.
Yeah, I think one of the ones he did was, was Peak Skill.
Well, he did build out the railroad playhouse for this, because Ray did renovate that building.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe he was involved in Peak Skill too, because they have a theater too.
I think he
Maybe both
he
theaters,
was,
actually.
he helped build out that one
Yeah.
too, so he has experience in building
Two
it.
theaters.
And then going back to your question, Amy, about will it have the, call the foot traffic? I remember in talking to Elizabeth, putting this together, she was doing an analysis of, bringing in, Storm King Center, and the amount of hundreds of thousands of people who visit that location every year, the Arts Center, and obviously West Point. So I think that she was drawing in from that, as well as, I know it's a little distant, but it's Woodbury Commons, but you're drawing in that population coming this way.
And I think that's it's a question that we can ask the sponsor in between. And then also at the next, because the sponsor will be presenting at the next LPC meeting. So that would be a good question to ask.
And there are two wildly successful restaurants on either end of it, which obviously is going to drive more foot traffic too. It just makes sense.
All right. Any other questions? Now we'll do our evaluation. I do want to say it's 7:15. We usually have our public comment period start at 7:15. We have one more project to present. So we're going to present that one more project, and then we will open it up for public comment. And then the LPC will come back and we'll review the results of the project evaluation after the public comment. So we want to make sure we get the public a chance to speak. Let's see. The next project, and this is the last one on our list, is the Veterans Repertory Theater. The sponsor is VetRep, which is a nonprofit organization. They own this building. And this is located 1 Angola Road. And this is to convert the current house into a home for Veterans Repertory Theater. This is a multi-phase project. Phase 1 of the project is currently underway and is to purchase and rezone the site. New York funds would be to support phase 2 of the project and would construct a 30-seat theater, box office, lobby and lounge area, parking lot, space for playwriting classes, and administrative offices. And then future phase 3 includes expanding the theater to 50 seats by adding a balcony and box seats in the interior, also adding a backstage area and dressing rooms, and the addition of outdoor stage and a second-story porch, which you can kind of see on the illustration there. For phase 1, which is already underway, the sponsor secured funding of approximately $600,000. That is covering all of phase 1.
Zoning is done. We took it.
Yes.
So that's.
Okay, thank you. The total project cost is about $3.6 million. They are asking for phase 2 funding of $625,000. Phase 2, they have secured $75,000, and then the rest of it to cover phase 2 is $625,000, which is what they're requesting for your forward funding. And then phase 3, they have so far secured $105,000, but have not secured the rest for phase 3 yet.
I'm so sorry. What was in phase? Got it. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
And earlier at the beginning, maybe you're gonna address this. you had mentioned you had to ask us a question about the boundaries, which was.
Oh my gosh, and I forgot, and I was like, yeah,
okay.
so we're gonna have to go back to another project for
But
a
this is
second.
included in the boundaries.
Yeah.
We expanded it.
Bumped it
yeah.
out.
Yes, we bumped it out to include the site, but now one of the projects came in with a little extension, so that's what.
Thank you for reminding me that.
That's okay, I just wanted to make sure, I remember we bumped this out, I
Yes.
just wanted to not be part of
Yes, definitely.
the option.
Any questions on this one? Okay, and then because you reminded me of that, I'm gonna go back.
What's the evaluation?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Your evaluation
Yep.
criteria, so these should be your last two questions, and then you click submit, you're feeling confident. And then once everyone clicks submit, then we'll go through the results later on.
And then the one that I needed to,
Yes.
the one that we needed to discuss, the bumping out a little bit, and actually, Christy, do you mind going back to the slide this is for the connector trail. I'm now
Bless you. Bless you.
At least you got air conditioning.
That's true.
Normally it's Jim Kane that whines at the meetings about how cold he is.
The actual,
No, he went to go start a fire. It keeps everybody awake.
what's that?
It's not warm in a casino, is it? Why? They want to keep people awake.
There's also booze, and I can see it.
Complimentary ones, right?
And this is just to go back for a blip, and then we will open it up for public comment, is the connector trail. Part of that is redoing some sidewalks and repairing and improving some sidewalks, including the sidewalk to Angola Road, which is included within the boundary. But what is not included in the boundary is, you see Christy has her cursor over there, is Hasbrook Road. There's just a little spit of it leading up to one of the buildings. Thank you, to Kovac, is to improve the sidewalks there. That is outside of the boundary, but it wouldn't involve some of the other ones. Like if we had, like the one on Shore Road, if we had opened that up, then it would have been so many properties, we would have had to open up the call for projects again. This one is adjacent to the boundary, and there's not enough like businesses there that we don't feel like we would have to reopen the call for projects.
So the reason to do it, is you were wondering about, so because, you know, as you know, we're proposing to on that property with the 325 Main Street next to the hotel site, build the municipal parking lot that will then be connected through the Cornwall ambulance building through a common like driveway. So then you can actually park, walk up, get on the sidewalk, and then walk down Hasbrook, and then go to Ventnor or go to wherever. But as you know, those sidewalks are like atrocious and unsafe, so we wanted to fix them.
Are you asking if we?
Yeah, so do we have LPC approval to amend the boundary just to include that blip on Hasbrook Road? Yes. Okay.
Any nays? I don't hear any.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you raise it up that 5 feet? So
Right.
Or the whole road.
the whole road, all the houses?
With that, I think we're going to take a pause from the LPC meeting because we would like to open this up to the public. So members of the public, this is your opportunity. If you'd like, feel free to just raise your hand and ask any questions, or if you have any comments.
And that's the same for folks online as well, because there are a couple members of the public online.
Any questions, comments? No? How about online? No? Okay.
We're very efficient here.
I know. Well, except for me, I went all the way over, so you guys are efficient. In that case, then moving forward with the, oh, wait, nope, we're good. So if you could go to this slide with the charts.
Somebody made a comment.
Yes, they're saying they're good.
Okay, so next up is, we have more charts. This just shows the total funding. So again, with the 3 projects that are ineligible, the total cost project cost came to about $20 million.
You took the ineligible ones out, is what you're saying.
On the next slide.
Got it. Okay.
And the New York Forward request is $7 million. And then the next slide, we show, this is the 10 projects, eligible projects that we presented today. Total cost of just shy of $20 million, and New York Forward request of $6.87 million. Again, just to reiterate, some of those may go up. Some of those costs may go up, especially after all the questions and comments today. But that's where we are. And like I said before, the state is looking for a submission between $6 and $8 million worth of projects. So we're right in the middle there. Do we have any questions, or do we want to go straight into the evaluation criteria results? Yeah.
I have a question as we, you said there was like a ranking. Does the state rank them, or do we just put them in and say we think they're all worthy, or do we rank them 1 through 10?
No ranking. So you
Okay.
put them in, say, I think they're all worthy. So make sure you, like at the final voting, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with submitting all of these projects. And then the state will do their internal evaluation. That is not a transparent process. That is their own separate process.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Which even Susan doesn't get to hear about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're saying put anything in the pot that you feel comfortable
Yeah.
about it?
Yes.
Are we still on target for November 1st for the strategic investment plan? Is that what we're still targeting, or
I think now we're probably more targeting November, maybe 15th.
November 15th?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So 2 weeks
Yeah.
past. Okay.
Yep. Okay, let's see. You might have to read these because I don't know that I can read them.
Okay, so the very first project that we talked about
was Riverlight Park.
So for Riverlight Park, if we will, can everyone see the screen clearly? I'm zooming more than needed.
That's good.
Okay. Okay, so for goals, it looks like majority, right here, 22% of the LPC thought that it aligned with the goals. Half of the amount of that. Let's say, I don't know how to say this, but for the most part, 44% majority believe that this project really aligns with the state, the REDC, and the local. So we are at 44% of the LPC that agree with that. And then in terms of project readiness, it looks like we have 77.8% of the LPC believe that this project is ready based off of the 3 criteria that we've been talking about. Again, scope of work, the project has other funding sources, and the sponsor can demonstrate site control.
And they're just to point out that there is no low on this one either. Right.
Right, no one identified as low.
Yep.
So only medium or high is in there. All right, and moving on to the next project.
Branding, marketing.
Thank you. It looks like, so in terms of goals, this is interesting, we have 11.1% of the LPC believe that it's low in terms of alignment with the state, the REDC, and local goals, whereas at 88.9, so more so majority, I think that's very high in the sense of its alignment with these goals. And project readiness, so there's a little more of a spread here. So it looks like 11.1% again believe that this project is low in terms of project readiness, so maybe it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. 22% is at that medium range, and 66.7% is more in line, thinking that this project is ready at this point.
Given that the time that we're already at 7:30, I will keep discussion, I think, low, but we definitely want to hear your responses. So, you know, as you're kind of looking through these, through the packets of information you have during your homework period, feel free to email us questions, and if you have comments about, like, I don't think this is ready because of X, Y, and Z, that is something that we can certainly address or make sure that the sponsor addresses.
Right, moving on, so this is the Cornwall Connector Trail, number 5 for goals. It looks like, similar to what we've been seeing, 11.1% of the LPC believe that this one might not yet align with the state, REDC, and local goals, but then 77.8% do believe so. So a little mix there. And then again, some folks also think it's within the high to very high range. And in terms of project readiness, 11.1% for low in terms of project readiness, and 88.9% of the LPC believes that the project is supposed to be ready. For there, we have a small project fund. So for this one, in terms of its alignment with the goals, we're on the range from medium to very high. So 22.2% for medium alignment with the goals, and then very high on the other end is 66.7%. So it seems like a good spread there. And then in terms of project readiness, so right now we're looking at medium high, so 33.3% and to 66.7% on the higher end of the LPC believes that this project is ready. Moving on, sorry, we're going through this quickly. Want to make sure we see all the results. So next is Dock Hill Road. And in terms of goals, the LPC, we have a range again from medium to very high, with 11.1% at the medium side of things to 66.7% very high in terms of alignment with the goals for state, REDC, and local. When it comes to project readiness, about 88.9% of the LPC's results deems that this project is ready. So maybe a couple more things to be fleshed out, but it seems like it's on its way. Right, moving through, we're at Donahue Farm. So in terms of goals, 11.1% voted for medium ranking, or medium alignment, I should say, and then as you can see, for very high, 66.7%. So it's pretty similar with what we've been seeing across all the projects so far. Donahue Farm. Let's see for project readiness. So for project readiness, we're at 11.1% for medium to 88.9% for high, and that's in terms of project readiness. So again, maybe some things will need to be fleshed out at this point, but it's on its way. Next, we're looking at the Cornwall NYF, so making our way towards the private and not-for-profit projects. So this one has more of a spread. 20% of the LPC thinks that maybe it's low in terms of its alignment with the goals, whereas then on the other side of the spectrum, it's very high, where 50%. So this one has a little more of a spread. And then for project readiness, showing close to the same, so 30% low, whereas 50% high in terms of project readiness. And next, we have the hotel. And this one also has a spread, so from on the low side, 20% to very high being 40%. So it looks like a fairly even spread across from low to very high in terms of its alignment with the goals. And for project readiness, we're going from low again to high, in this case 20% low, 20% medium, 60% high in terms of project readiness. From here, we're going to go to the Storm King Theater. So again, showing another spread. This one is a little tighter in its spread from 18.2% in low to very high being 36.4%. And this again is in terms of alignment with the state, regional, and local goals. And then for project readiness, we're seeing it spread again, where at the low, 18.2% and high being 36.4%. With most of the LPC kind of falling in that medium range at 45.5%, and this is in terms of project readiness. And then lastly, this is vet rep. So for vet rep, for alignment with state, regional, and local goals, we are at 9.1% for medium, but then at very high for 54.5%. So it's like this project is aligned with the state, local, and regional goals. And then lastly, project readiness. So as you can see here, the LPC believes that on the high side of things, 90.9% of this project, of the LPC believes this project is ready. So again, a couple things to flesh out, but
you have all these on a spectrum, like where we could see where they fall. It's a lot of math involved in that. So are you able to, with that data, say, okay, this one is the one that has the most of X, Y, and Z?
And just not right now, but like.
No. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just curious. And not that we need that, but the data is there.
I think what we can do is we can send out these results in a potentially more readable way. But again, we want to make sure that we're not pitting projects against each other, so we don't want to rank projects as in this is highest and lowest. We want to make sure we stay away from that. So we can definitely send this information out so that you can see it. And it'll be similar to how it's presented, but we can make sure it's slightly more organized so you don't have to.
dig against our ranking. I don't know what Amy's looking for, but I'm more looking for just that blue percentage, just not against each other, kind of.
Just project by project, yeah.
Kind of what we felt.
Or a sense of which ones there's more unanimity in. Did I say that word right? And which ones there's a wider spread, because I think, ones that everybody's in agreement, there's sort of less time needed for conversation.
Yeah, we can send out these results and then you'll be able to see them on your own.
Can I ask a quick question? And I know we're fighting time right now, but is anybody, obviously, he and I have been talking about this stuff ad nauseum. So we know every project and we know what we're looking to do. Obviously, the folks up here too. From the LPC perspective, were you guys and gals, any of you surprised? Any of you thought, man, I thought they should have thought about this from the municipal end, or I wasn't expecting that, or on the private industry stuff, boy, I was surprised they didn't put in for it, and I'm surprised that didn't. What are your takeaways? Like I said, we know these projects because we've been eating, breathing, and sleeping them, but do you guys have any weigh-in on that? Are you happy and satisfied with what is being put forth? Yes, sir.
Do we know of any organizations or entities who thought about applying but just ran out of whatever time or bandwidth or anything?
No, I can only speak for the village, but the people that have come up and talked, generally speaking, it was somebody that was outside the zone. They'd come up and ask, and I say, it's not gonna work because of this. Or they'd say, hey, I'm thinking about this, and I said, it's not consistent with what the goals and the mission are here. Let me show it to you. But I had a handful of that.
I mean, we had some, some different groups who were like, oh, we want to do Main Street beautification, but the town's gonna do that, and we have site control, so we simply just said, well, why don't we just work together on this, because we have site control. Or in the case of nonprofits, I mean, obviously, the Hudson Island Nation Museum would have been great to get them in it, but it's kind of a stretch we would have to extend the boundary so far to get them in. We might be able to do some stuff with signage, because I think signage can be outside the boundaries, but.
Both locations were outside of it. But I mean, from the municipal end, is this what you folks reasonably thought we were gonna be looking at and attacking? Because that's important, like I said.
I think generally I was impressed when I did do some homework and I looked at everything before and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I think I was generally impressed with what I saw, and about half of them, maybe more, are things that I know have been in the pipeline and been buzzing about, and we all know that rep and, some of these other ideas in the hotel. But there were some that were new and exciting. So I was pretty impressed and thought it covered, I don't feel like anything's missing,
Any blind spots? And that's what we're asking you about, blind spots. Because again, we got so focused on these municipal projects that are we missing anything that any of you sat there and said, boy, why didn't they consider this?
I don't know if this is a blind spot, and I don't have Amy's sort of familiarity with the town's projects overall, but I didn't hear two things as much as I expected. One is sort of sustainability overall. And I feel like there might be an opportunity, particularly with the town and the villages projects, to think about those planting options and the sustainability options together, rather than each project has its own kind of landscape or something like that, to think about overall standards. And then just the other one, and this very much comes from where I sit, that signage is going to be really important in realizing the goal of connecting things that are not on Main Street back to Main Street. And the other way around.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the, because we're gonna hire a landscape architect and we're gonna have a marketing firm that's gonna, I think through the, by having that landscape architect help us, they'll help us with the plantings and the uniformity of the, and the sustainability efforts and all that stuff. I think that'll happen
organically.
Yeah, maybe we just didn't use the right words, but I think that's.
I'd say these are also good questions for us to ask the sponsors, next time.
And a suggestion just to build on that, when standards for plantings, signage, all of that, curb furniture, all of that consistent look and feel stuff, that should be something maybe in a condensed form, sort of a style guide basically, that can be made available to business owners. So if they want to do their own plantings on their property, they can make it consistent with
Great
everything
point.
else. Yeah.
Great
And if I
point.
can build on that, if you could, we could embed not just visual standards, but these other values that are expressed in the, what do we call it, LPC's value statement, that, it's about real materials, or it's about renewable, or something like that,
And not mandatory, not forcing people to do things, but just optional, hey, here's what we're doing. If you're gonna do something, might as well abide by this guidelines.
A
Yeah.
template,
Yeah.
I do want to throw out there that the part of the requirements for New York Forward, as well as DRI, is there are certain buildings, if they're new or rehabilitated, require decarbonization measures. The only one of these buildings that met the requirement is the hotel. And so the hotel will need to meet the New York Forward and New York State standards for decarbonization.
That's based on the scale of the project.
Yeah.
And I read on the Fleming building, there was asbestos that's minimal, correct?
Yeah.
So that was just what they found while doing their due diligence, not part of like what the state requirement, that's just overall requirements for construction.
The other thing I'll note about the decarbonization as well, the hotel is the only one that is required to. I believe some of the other private projects indicated an interest in incorporating those measures into their buildings as well.
We did not include in this kind of like more high-level presentation any of the sustainability measures, but we can make sure that in the next round that we kind of highlight some of those.
Thank you.
For sure.
And it's also included in the summary document, all the projects that were provided as well, so it's in there too.
Oh, no, I don't think that is.
Oh,
Yeah, never mind.
We can edit.
Yeah, but we can add it later.
I thought I saw it at one point, actually.
Did we?
Yeah, I thought I saw it, sustainability, was part of it, but I could be wrong.
We'll double check.
Yeah.
The verbiage was there somewhere, I remember it, but where it was, I don't.
And just to ask again, if we have comments about certain aspects of the proposals, materials being used, things like that, we can send those comments to you all.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And they can also be raised at the next LPC meeting as well.
And that's the importance of public engagement as well. I mean, people really need to come out, put their opinions out, and get their voices heard, so they can be considered in all this.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. With that, we do want to go, and I can't let you guys go yet. We have some next steps and dates coming up that we need to discuss. For public, our public outreach activity, again, will be Sunday, September 24th at Cornwall Fall Festival, so come visit us.
Where will we be located? Do we know yet?
Steve, or maybe who would put together, there's already a map where everybody's gonna be, and I believe you got prime location. I want to say, did Scott Teresi put that together, Eileen Hartman, because I saw a bootleg copy of it. What's that?
Wynn was communicating with me about it,
Yeah,
but I didn't get a map yet.
You're gonna get a primo spot.
We're in good spot. Yeah.
Okay.
Wherever you would be.
I think we're not gonna be there for the full time, but we'll be there from, we haven't quite figured out, but for like 3 hours of it, we'll be there.
I think we're on Willow for some reason, like we were punching
Down
up, down
Toward that end,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, but good spot. Same, near where we were set up when we were doing this project.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's right.
Dr.
Come
Stein's
visit us
office.
and direct people to us.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Sorry, can I go backwards? I just had a thought that we missed. In terms of projects that we may have missed, just came to me, I didn't think of it when you asked. The Bridge Street, making that more permanent than what it is now. Is that part of the connector trail, or is that, because there was big drawn out plans for that?
Yeah, so I think,
How come that's not on this list on a more robust level?
that's part of the connector trail, so I think
Okay.
we're ultimately deciding on what, I actually think the connector trail budget's gonna grow by a lot, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
And I think that's where we would put that in there.
Okay.
And I realize it's outside of the boundary, but you could make the argument that the connector trail could start at 32, and something could be done about that awful steel cage and riprap embankment at 32.
Oh, the caving and baskets,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a terrible entrance to the town visually. That's just my opinion.
I agree, Ted.
Although I think those are counties, we have to get site control.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Going back
Yeah,
to our.
Next steps, important dates.
Next steps, important dates. And even before we get to the Cornwall Fall Festival, so the homework assignment that we have given you guys, if you can have comments back to us by September 15th, we would appreciate it, because then we can compile them, get them to the sponsors in time before the next LPC meeting, which is Wednesday, September 27th. That LPC meeting will be held at Town Hall, so we'll not be here, it'll be at Town Hall. Is there anybody who already knows that they will not be able to attend that meeting?
Does it say 3 hours?
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be root canal with no Novocaine. That's a 3-hour session that night.
Does that mean 5:30 to 8:30?
So it's really 4 hours?
So,
Yes.
no, I hope not. Well, given where the way today's gone, it might be.
What is it, start time?
So this was our next thing, is that meeting will be, we already know from the way we've been going over on these meetings, and that the next one, we're gonna have the sponsors speak, those meetings always go over time, so we wanted to request from the LPC that it can be a 3-hour meeting. We were thinking that instead of 5:30 to 7:30, it would be 5 to 8. Is that gonna cause major conflict with the LPC members? Do we get to eat?
Do we get to eat?
We are considering food options, we don't know what it is, but we don't need
The
food.
farmhouse is providing.
Ah, all right. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, brother. Well done, sir.
That's fine. Yep.
So 5 to 8, Town Hall, Wednesday, September 27th, LPC number 4. Are we good on that? 5 to 8, if you gotta come late, but get there as soon as you can.
And then the next public workshop number 2 will be Thursday, October 12th. And then LPC meeting number 5, that will be our final. LPC meeting will be Tuesday, October 24th, and that will be back here at Village Hall. Does anybody know that for sure that they won't be able to attend LPC 5?
What's the date on that again? October what?
24th.
24th. All right, and we're gonna go back to 5:30 to 7:30 here at Village Hall.
Yeah, that'll be a 2-hour meeting.
Got it.
Yeah.
5:30 to 7:30.
Yes, yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's also at 5:30.
And again, at that last meeting, that's the most vital for the LPC to attend, is we're gonna be voting on the slate of projects to be submitted to the state. So let us know as soon as you can, if you can't make it, so we can make accommodations or figure out something.
And then once again, homework due to us September 15th. And if you have any questions, comments in the meantime,